Welcome back to the final part of this Wrestlemania conversion, if you will. I don't like to use the word restoration because technically it's a War Gods cabinet, but we're going to start by, it's easier to just replace the power supply. When you have a power supply that's faulty, this one's not faulty, but this is the original one from the War Gods machine. It's always easier to just replace the power supply when it goes bad than really anything else. But there's no reason why you can't just rebuild it. I mean, if it's working and you want to do a little preventive maintenance, if you just change the caps and do a little reflow on this like a chassis, it should last, or like a monitor, I should say, monitor chassis. It should last, in hypothetically as long as it has up to this point. So I'm going to rebuild this instead of replacing it. So again, this is the original power supply out of the War Gods cabinet, or out of our Wrestlemania cabinet now. So let's take this apart and let's rebuild it. And we'll start off this final part by doing this. We'll take these mounting screws out of here, and let's see if we can get this apart here. I probably should have started with it up. It was upside down. I should have started with it this way, but that's okay. So as far as getting this case off of here, it looks like these screws are for the top half. Oh, dropped it. I'm losing dexterity over the years. So I think that's for the top case. Yep, there we go. And wow. Pretty dirty. But we can clean that up, not a problem. Okay, so we don't need to take the bottom case apart or anything like that. We should be able to simply disconnect some things, and these are both, I don't know, these are both, this is the 110 switch, so we don't want to mess these up. What I'll do is I'll mark. These two wires go to the switch for the 110 versus 220. I don't want to mess these up. One of them should be longer than the other. Yeah, we'll put a mark on the one by the filter caps. I'll put FC filter cap. So that one will go by the filter caps, the other one goes over there, can't mess that up. Alright, and then there's this is the connector for the input, so let's slide this off of here. And here is our 5-volt adjustment. Gonna have to take that nut off. Give me a second, I have to go grab, yeah, I have to go get a socket for that. Alright, looks like it's gonna be 3/8 maybe? Yep, okay. Alright, and solder joints look okay on that, but we'll clean that up too. And yeah, let's disconnect that. That's all of those. Anything else? So, of course, the fan has no connector. The fan has no connector for the board, so we'll probably just desolder it from the board. Okay, well, let's try and get this out of here. Get that out of here! I think someone's had this apart before, because this is a different screw than the rest of them. If we look at these screws, you can see that's a pan head screw. That's a pan head screw. That's a pan head screw. But this one's a countersink. So someone might have had this apart before. And some of these power supplies border on the $50 range. So it's always, you know, it's easier to just rebuild it. Can we get this out of here? Yes, we can. And we'll have to desolder the wires for a fan. And it's very obvious that the black goes on the ground plane, so we'll grab that out of here. If I can. There's that, and there's that. Alright, so I'm going to grab my brush here. I'm going to take this and step away. I'm going to just take this and step away, and I'm going to use my brush here, just kind of brush all. I don't want this all flying all over my room and the workbench here, so I'm going to go outside and just brush all this clean with the brush, and I'll come back and we'll see how it looks. Here's how it looks before. I mean, I'm not going to do a full cleaning. I'm just going to brush all the dirt and dust off. I mean, look at this. So I'll get all this brushed off and wiped off and whatnot, and then I'll come back and we'll see how it looks afterward. Okay, I also forgot to mention the case. I took the case outside and brushed it all out and used some compressed air, and it got about as clean as I could get it. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, but at least all the dust and the dirt's gone. So I got the case done as well, blew the fan out and everything. Again, not award-winning, but job's done. And now the actual power supply itself is looking much better. So a little compressed air along with a brush, no liquid, no water, no cleaning, no agents or anything, just a little brushing with compressed air, and it's basically brand new. So all we got to do now is just change the caps out, do a little reflow, and we'll have ourselves hypothetically, well, actually theoretically, a brand new power supply, so to speak. As long as we don't find any burned up resistors or anything, it all actually looks pretty good. And it did function, so yeah, I think all we should have to do is just change the caps. I don't see any burnt resistors or components or anything like that. We'll change the caps out, reflow it, and we'll call this repaired or rebuilt, if you will. So first thing I have to do is figure out what caps we need. The filter caps are 200 volt, 330 microfarad. I don't necessarily have to change the filter caps, but the only filter caps I have .470, 270. I have one 330, but I don't even know if it's the same footprint. Yeah, it's the same footprint, but I don't think I'm gonna actually change the filter caps. There's no reason. Do I have any other? I think I have some other 330s. I do have 330s, right here. But these are 50 volt 330. Actually, no, look at this. Dare I dream it? Look at that. 200 volt 330. Let's use that one. And let's use this one, brand new, 200 volt 330. So the reason I have these is because these were used on, I believe, a Sharp XM 1801 out of a red tent monitor, and the chassis was basically destroyed, and someone capped it trying to fix what was wrong with it, and it was pretty much, they destroyed it pretty much beyond repair. So I snagged all the caps off of it, and I just put the chassis over here in my closet of spare parts chassis. So I stole the filter caps off of that, so I got two pretty much brand new 200 volt 330s. So awesome. I have filter caps. Since I have them, we'll change them out. This is just my other bag of random filter caps that I stole off other chassis that were thrown in the parts pile. Alright, so filter caps acquired. Now we need to see what else we have. So we can X that off and X that off. Alright, let's start with these in here. 51, I know I have those. 50 volt 1 microfarad, I got those. 50 volt 1 microfarad. 50 volt 4.7, I have those. 50 volt 47, I have those. 50 volt 1. 50 volt 10, got those. 50 volt 10, got those. Can't see what that is. Coils, inductors, no way. 470, I got those. 22, I got those. Uh-oh. I don't have any 2200s. Well, I mean, I do, but they're part of other kits. That's going to be an issue. Another 2200 and 4700. Holy crap, 16 volt 4700? I know I'm not going to have a 4700. We can make a 4700, but then it won't fit. I just got the kibosh put on me here. We may not be able to change out this one cap. I don't have any extra 2200s. I definitely don't have a 4700. This is 16 volt 4700. Wow. Okay. Well, let me pour through a bunch of things and see what I can find, because maybe, just maybe, I could hodgepodge something together in here. Because let's say we don't have a 4700. You can take two 2200s and a 470 and put them all together in parallel, and you'll end up with, well, 45 something. But you can take, you know, if you need, let's say you need a 100 microfarad capacitor, you don't have one, but you have two 50 microfarad capacitors, you can put them together in parallel like this, and then put them in the whatever you're doing, and that'll equal to 100. So you can actually put capacitors in parallel in the circuit, and that will, you know, if you get two 50s in parallel, it will equal 100. So we could hodgepodge something together to get to 4700, but I don't know how we'd fit it on the chassis. I can't put it on the bottom, because then it won't fit back in the case. Let me dig around and find something I can do about this, and I'll come right back. Alright, so I ended up being able to find all the caps brand new that I needed except for this 4700. Now, like I say, normally I would just take two 2200s and a 300 in parallel, put it in there, and it'd work, but I had to steal these from cap kits. So I need to go online and order 10 more of these as a replacement. Well, 2 to replace the ones I stole and 8 as spares. So since I have to do that anyway, I'm going to order a 4700, and I'll change that out later. So we'll be able to do the entire cap kit except just this one cap, and then later off camera when it arrives, I'll just change this one cap out and it'll be fine. So for now, we're going to go ahead and just get all the caps changed out except for this one. I'll change it later. We'll do the reflow. It'll be one long sped up portion here. I'm not going to do a jump cut. I'll just do all the work, and I'll speed it up, and you can watch me do it. And we'll get everything done except just this one cap, and put it all back together and power it up and make sure it works. And we'll put this in the machine, and it'll work fine for us for only a couple of bucks. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so there you have it. After just a few short moments, we have all the original caps replaced except for this 4700, which I've mentioned before, what we'll do with that later. And it's reflowed and all good to go. So the solder joints on the 5-volt adjustment are good as well. There's no frayed wires or loose or anything like that, so I didn't really reflow that. It looked okay. I checked to make sure there were no burned up resistors. Everything's fine. So I think we're good to go to put this back together. I just wish I had that 4700, but we'll change it later. There really wasn't anything that was that bad on the back side. There were a couple of joints that looked awful thin. I reflowed anything that looked thin or close to cracking or anything that looked remotely bad. I reflowed all of it, and you saw that. So yeah, I think we're ready to put this back together. I'm going to take all these old caps and just throw them in the garbage. There they go. Okay, now let's set this back in place. Now this went like so, and this connector connected between, well, let's just set it in place first. Okay. Now we'll put that one oddball countersink screw in. Oh, nope. I almost made a mistake. Well, I did make a mistake, but I caught it. I forgot to reattach the fan wires, and the negative goes on the edge, and this is going to be a tough one here. Let's see if we can sneak this in here. Yes, okay. Alright, so the power wire's in there, now the negative wire, there we go. Alright, fan resoldered in. What is the holdup on this? There we go. Take two. And call me in the morning. Alright, now this routed something like this, I think. No, this was always over here, like that. I think that'll stay once we get the case on. Now we need to reconnect these. This hooks up over here, like so. This one goes here. This one goes down between the filter caps that I can't see anymore. Right there, and let's push it down with that. Alright. Get our 5-volt adjustment hooked back up. And I'm confident in the repair, so we're going to go ahead and just put the cover back on. Actually, it goes this way. All right, looking good. All right, just like that, for a couple of bucks, we've got a rebuilt, fresh, ready-to-go power supply. And obviously this screw was being used because of how beat up the case is. Yeah, I don't know which one. I think probably this one. Opposite corners? Yeah, okay. These are the screws that hold it into the frame when it's inside the machine. Alright, so I always like to take these 5-volt adjustment pots and just wipe them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to kind of clean up the contacts inside, just like back and forth, because they'll get tarnish. When they sit in one spot for 20 plus years, it develops oxidation on those connections, so you clean up the oxidation by just going back and forth like this. And then we'll set it back properly once we power it up. Okay, so now all we should have to do here is plug this in and get our meter ready. And zoom out a bit. Okay, volts DC. Here's our power plug. Okay, let's see if anything explodes here. 1, 2, 3. All right. You can hear the fan running. It's rather loud, but it works just fine, and it's not blowing out a bunch of dirt and dust. That's what I wanted to avoid. So, okay, the black wires are ground, so we can just go into any of those, and the 3 red wires here should be 5 volts. 5.5, so we need to turn this down. And it just shut off on me. I went too far. Hold on. Turn this back up. There we go. So 5.6. We want to be about 5.125. That way, once it gets a load on it, it goes down to an even 5 volts. So, that's not good. It's shutting down before I get even close to 5.1. It could be because we don't have a load on it. It's hard to adjust these when there's no load on it. I wonder if I need to just put this back in the cabinet and plug in a board I don't care about, like a 60-in-1 here or something, and just adjust it down to 5.15 or so at that point. Because it's going into like a protection mode, because I have to turn power off and back on for it to start working again. Yeah, see, it won't turn back on with the pot where it's at. So if I max the pot out, it isn't coming back on. It could be a faulty potentiometer. That's why I like to move those back and forth. Yeah, see, it's not coming back on. It's like it's in a protection mode. There, seeing something, the fan just spun for a second there. There it goes. The voltage is stable. What's our 12 volts at? The orange wire should be 12. Is it? I think the orange wire is -5 actually. No, that's 12. Okay, 12 is good. 11.83. -5 is right at -5. I think the blue is -12. We don't use -12. -12 is good too. 5.6. What happens if we go to 12 volts and turn it down? So there's 5.2. See? Let me go slow here. 5.4. Yeah, it shuts off at 5.3. I think it's just a situation where it's not under load. So what I'm going to do is we'll call it a success, but we're not going to give up the ghost here on this shutting down on us until we actually get it back in the machine and get a board hooked up and see what happens under load, because pardon me, I think it's actually it's designed to work under load. And yeah, I'm not sure 100%, but as far as the rebuild goes, the rebuild was successful, but there may be that one cap that we didn't change may be causing this. And I just wish I could come up with some type of jury-rigged deal here to make this work without having to wait on ordering one. I'm going to turn the... Yeah, I turned it back up. I don't think the pot is the problem. Okay, it comes right back on. So nothing's wrong with the power supply. I just think we're turning it too far down, too low, and there's no load on it. Is there a way I can make this? I don't think that there is a way that I can hook this up on the test bench here. Do I have a connector that will work for this? No, I don't. All right, well, let's just put it back in the machine and take a board I don't care about. I have a Pandora's box here too. We'll just slave in a board I don't care about and see if we can adjust it inside the cabinet. But for now, we're going to call this a success, and I'll change that cap later once I get it ordered and it arrives. Okay, I started thinking about this, and I'm 99.9% sure it's not a problem with that cap that I didn't change out. It should not be 5.6 volts. Even not under load, it should not be 5.6 volts. And the fact that I'm adjusting the pot and it's not changing, like 5.4 or so, and then it cuts out. I wanted to read the pot here and with the meter and see what it reads as we turn it down. So if we look here, it's a 2K ohm pot is what it's supposed to be. B2K. Not to be confused with British Knights, the shoes from the 90s. B2K, if we zoom back out here, so if I go across the leads here, it should read, I'm going to turn it all the way up. It should read 2K all the way up. And it reads 1.5K. I'm touching the frame. Hold on, this is hard to do and get on camera here all at the same time. Okay, 1.5K. Now as I turn this down slowly, watch what happens. 1.4, 1.3, watch the meter, 1.2, 1.1. Oh, see, it just shot back up to 1.3 as I'm turning it down. And 0.9. Whoa, oh, it just shot up to 5. You see that? It just shot up to 5K. Look at that. I'm not even touching it. And it's jumping all over the place. I should be around 700 ohms, but it just shot up to 5K. I think that's the point at which this is shutting down, is it's reaching a point to where it doesn't see where the pot is set to, or it's way above tolerance and it's kicking it into safety protection mode. So I'm turning it down again, turning it down again. 2.4? 3.6? 4? 4K? See, 0.7. Whoa. 3.2. And now it's all the way down. So this has a range here where if I slowly bring it up, it goes up linearly. What's the word? Linear. Sorry. It goes up in a linear fashion, as you would expect. And then it jumps. There's 500, 700, 9. Oh, see, it's bouncing between 7 and 9 as I go up. 1.5, 2.9. So this pot is dead. Bad. This is our problem. It's not a power supply problem. This is our problem. So, after I cut the camera off, I started thinking, I should cut back in, take that cover off, and test that pot. And I'm glad I did, because the pot is our problem. So I have to see if I can find another one, or maybe spray some alcohol in there. That's a good idea. Let's just put some alcohol in there. And wipe this back and forth with a little alcohol. Back and forth now. Okay, I'm going to take some compressed air and blow all this out, and I'll be right back and we'll test it again. Alright, so let's start by turning it all the way up and go back to our 2 points here, the red and the white wire. And see, we're still at 1.6. It should be about 2K, but let's turn it down. 3, 2, 1, 0. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Look at that. Fantastic. Let's go back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, sorry. 1K. 1.2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I think we got it fixed. Look at that. A little alcohol cleaned it up. So, that being said, let's see if we're getting... Let's turn it all the way up again. And we'll go back to our 5 volts. Volts DC. All right, now let's see if we get a different reading now. Okay. Fan turned on, 5.7. Yowza. All right, can we turn this down now without it going into shutdown? Well, what do you know? Look at that. Awesome. And now once this is under load with the powering up an actual PCB, this should be closer to 5 volts. Boom, good. We had a faulty, dirty adjustment pot. So yeah, there you go. I'd still like to replace it, because I don't want this thing going haywire and sending 5.6 volts DC to the board. But I'm fairly certain that if we just leave it in this position after cleaning it, it should be fine. So I'm still going to use it. Not going to worry too much about it. So maybe I've already placed I went ahead off camera and placed an order for that 4700 microfarad cap, and I'll replace the pot at the same time as that cap, so don't worry about that. And there you go, nice stable 5.153, and it was all due to a dirty pot that wasn't letting us go down to the 5.15, and it was going into shutdown because it was jumping up to like 5K, which basically is, this thing doesn't understand what's going on when it's supposed to be only 2K. 5K, it's like, nope, shutdown. So, all right, now we can officially call this rebuilt. Put this cover on one last time. Okay, much happier about that. Yeah, I turned the camera off and sat there for a little while and thought, you know what, I don't think it's an issue of that cap, and I'm fairly certain that it must be a dirty pot or something. So I got the meter out and tested it, and sure enough, yeah, dirty pot. So I turned the camera on and we got it figured out. And again, just for the cost of a couple of dollars worth of caps, you've got a rebuilt power supply. So, all right, let's go out to the cabinet and start working on that. All right, so let's get this thing installed, set in place, and ready to go. Okay. This will sit in here like so. Then it slides back and we tighten the screws down. Okay, freshly rebuilt power supply, ready to last for a number of years. Like I say, I got the cap and the pot on order. We'll change those out later, not a big deal. We can take this and plug it back in our connector. Okay. All right, now let's see if we can do some wire organization and cleanup and get ready to put a board in, get the monitor in, and kind of go from there. Alright, for this project we are going to be using a Hanorex Polo because the War Gods cabinet does not have an isolation transformer from the factory. And I don't want to have to install one. Not that it's a big deal, but there's no reason to. If I have a monitor like this that doesn't require an isolation transformer, we can just use one of this. Or one of these, I should say. A monitor like this. So it's all hooked up, ready to go. And it's already been set properly and everything on the bench for Wrestlemania for size, position, brightness, contrast stuff. So I'm not going to make any adjustments. So we're going to be using a Mortal Kombat PCB here, my test board, to make sure this system's operational before I risk the Wrestlemania PCB. So I unhooked the power supply again. So we'll double verify that we're getting our proper voltage, and then we'll turn this on and make sure that we're getting a decent, good image. I'm only interested in the 5 volts. And then we can actually hook up the Wrestlemania board and see how it looks. Let's go to volts DC, and I realize now that I forgot to hook up the power cord. But that's okay, it's right here. So we'll plug this in, and we'll plug the cable in. All right, now let's disconnect the monitor real quick. I'm going to, okay. All right, so let's flip this on and make sure we're still getting our 5 volts. Here we go. Yep, 5.14, fantastic. So now, if we turn this back off, connect this to here, hook the monitor up. All right, now let's close the garage door a bit, go up front and see if we have an image. Here we go. Okay, I decided to leave the third car garage door up just slightly so we get a little bit of light in here, but let's turn this on just like this. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Okay, monitor came on, board's on. Let's go up front and see if we have an image. Yes, we do. Man, the Polos are just such a good monitor. It's unbelievable. Okay, so with that, let's increase our tripod legs here. Can I get away with doing it the third time without this camera falling off? Oh, well, hey, maybe so. All right. Sorry for the amateurness of this, but all right. Flyback is up a bit too high, but I'm not going to adjust it because, like I say, the Wrestlemania board, we kind of have some retrace lines there. You can see them ever so slightly. So the flyback is up ever so slightly. Let me tweak it down just a hair. I didn't want to adjust it, but we can. There we go. That's better. Okay. Now, let's disconnect this and put the Wrestlemania board in. Okay. MK board is out. Wrestlemania board is in. Here we go. Okay, I got the controls hooked up, so let's there we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Howard and welcome to Wrestlemania by Midway.
This speaker's not working. This one is. That one's not.
Razor. Good evening, everyone. This is
power punch button isn't working. That one is. Well, I got some, I don't have the low attacks hooked up, and the player 2 power punch isn't working. So I'll have to figure that out. So, yeah, wiring gremlins, but nothing we can't figure out. But hey, monitor works, it looks amazing. Everything's ready to go. So I'm gonna turn this off. And I guess now, we'll tackle the wiring and stuff on the inside last. That will finish this up. So let's get going on these coin doors that are still missing, and we'll see how we can make those look. All right, just like that, the coin doors are in. So you saw the process to get all that done. Now off camera, I didn't show it, but off camera I went ahead and scratched that up a bit. That's no good. Oh well. but I had to put a bolt, carriage bolt, and a nut in these holes to kind of close them out. So there's just a bolt and a nut through those holes that are in there. Kind of bummed about that. I think I just did that, but oh well. This opens up here. Now I put all the original stuff here back in. And then this piece here I had to rob from the pole position. I took this all apart over here for the pole position. I took all this stuff apart and transplanted it over there onto that coin door here because of all the missing parts and pieces. So these and those and the flaps and the inserts and this piece here to keep the insert in place and all that stuff. So I checked these are good. I put LEDs in there, had to rob the holder from the pole position. So now, I'm not interested in putting this stuff back together because it's going to be on free play for as long as I own it, so not going to worry too much about it. And it's locked up and coin doors are done. Not 100%, but good enough for being out in public, which is where this is going to go, obviously. So, and then also while I was waiting for the coin doors to dry from painting, I got the joystick swapped out to the IL Euro stick bases. So we're good to go on the sticks, because originally, if you recall, I had those cheap 8-way sticks in here by mistake. I ordered the 8-ways thinking that they were the Haps, but it turns out they were just a cheap 8-way, so I bought the IL sticks. I'm going to get them changed out on Tattoo Assassins as well. So the controls are done. I figured out the problem with the Player 2 power kick, or power punch, I should say, that this button here wasn't working because the wire was broken right at... the wire was broken right at the terminal lug. So I cut the wire and put a new terminal lug on there, and it's good to go. So now all of that stuff is good, and we should be ready to wire up the low attacks for both sides, and that will pretty much finish this up. So I need to mount the remote board for the monitor here, and I was doing some work with it unplugged, so let me plug it back in. Okay, and the inside's nice and clean and everything, so let's get the PCB mounted. Let's get the wiring done for the low attacks, and that will pretty much finish this. So I'm not sure, there's not going to be any really way for me to film that. I could probably point the camera through here, but all you see is my fat bald head in the way and half my body in the way. There's not really going to be any really way to angle this to really film it properly. So I'm going to cut away and come back and have all of it done and show everything of how it all got wired up. So I'm going to cut away. When I come back, I'll have all of it done, and we'll finish this up and call it good. Alright, so I had to mount the PCB like this instead of up and down. I had to do it sideways because War Gods actually was mounted like this, and the hard drive was over here. So because of that, the JAMA harness is a bit shorter. The JAMA harness won't actually reach and go across here and down to where it normally would go, because War Gods is mounted a different way like this. So I had to mount the board up and down, to the right 90 degrees instead of up and down like this. Or you get the idea. Normally it's mounted this way. I had to mount it like this because of where the JAMA harness... shut up. Because of the way the JAMA harness is. So then I also got the kick harness wired up. I used the heat shrink solder zaps that I mentioned before in the control panel build. They hook right there to that connector, and then this goes to the interconnect for the control panel, so that's all done. I need to actually zip tie it all up, which I'll do later. I also need to properly route and zip tie up the coin door harness right there. The remote harness for the monitor I hooked right there, which actually the coin door harness is supposed to route along here, along these holders here. I'll get that done as well. But I routed the harness here, remote harness adjustment board for the monitor right there. So that way we can just open the coin door and the adjustments will be right there. So just nice and easy that way. So we're all hooked up for the low attacks right here. They run right to the PCB. Everything else is hooked up, so if we go into the menu here, and we'll go to diagnostic tests, switch test. All right, so here we go. Start, up, down, left, right. Let's get a, let me close this door a little bit. Sorry. Okay. Start, up, down, left, right, punch, defense, power punch, kick, power kick. So we're good on player 1. Player 2, start, up, down, left, right, punch, defense, power punch, kick, power kick. Player 1 and 2 start. I need to use one arm here. There we go. And there we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Howard Pickle. And welcome to Wrestlemania by Midway. Greeting everyone, this is Vince McMahon and me, Jerry the King Lawler.
I can't do this with one hand here.
That was great.
Power punch now works fine. So we need to figure out the last thing is why this speaker's not working, and then this will be done. So let's open the doors back up, take the marquee back out, and see what's going on with that speaker. All right, so it turns out that Wrestlemania is a mono game and War Gods is a stereo game. So I had to disconnect these other 2 speaker wires that run down. I checked continuity from here all the way down to the board, and it was good. So it wasn't a problem of a connection issue. Speaker wasn't the problem. I put the wires from here over to here. But if we look at the actual diagram here, this is the War Gods diagram, and you can see here, speaker left, Lima, and speaker left negative, and speaker left positive, Lima and 10. Speaker right negative, Mike, and speaker right positive, 11. But if we scroll, this is the War Gods pinout. If we scroll to the Wrestlemania pinout, you can see here there's nothing in 11 or Mike, no connection. So Wrestlemania is a mono game and War Gods is stereo. That's why only one speaker was working. So I had to connect some wires here and just piggyback them over. I had to repin these on both sides, so I just piggyback some wires over to here. I'm going to leave these disconnected. So now we have sound out of both speakers. We'll get the marquee back on, finish up putting some zip ties on the harness, and I think that will be it. So here we go. Okay, marquee is back on and the inside of the cabinet is 100% done. I got everything routed and secured and everything the way that it needs to be. So we got some remnants of an old configuration, but that's fine, they can stay there. Everything is now hooked up, secured, routed, tied up, and ready to go. So, yep. Let's get this all, let's get the back door on and get it wiped down, cleaned up, and call this a successful project. And here it is, the final product. Amazing condition, amazing turnout. Again, could not have hoped for a better result. I say that every time, but just it's truly amazing how when you put the effort in, you can get a really good result. So, yeah. Can't complain about this one bit. It's not perfect, like, you can't expect it to come out perfect, but for the way that this is, I couldn't have asked for it to come out any better, given what I had to start with. So, and the Henrex Polo is just unbelievably awesome. When it works and it's adjusted properly, it's probably the best looking monitor that ever was made. And we got the audio fixed where it's both speakers now. Let's go ahead and start a game. Sorry about the refresh rate there, but both speakers working good. I don't know why that refresh rate is going so crazy there. Maybe that'll help, but anyway, super crisp, super sharp. Oh, hang on, I gotta turn my light off. There we go. So, yeah. We already know all the controls are good, so no need to go through that. And there you have it, guys and gals. Appreciate it. Yeah, now I have no light, so it's a bit darker. There you go. So, yep, thanks for following along. It's much appreciated. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more. The next machine on the restoration or conversion list is probably the more accurate way to describe that, is a WWF WrestleFest. I have actual, this time it really is a NFL Blitz cabinet. So I have a Blitz cabinet 99, I believe, that has no control panel, no monitor. The inside is completely gutted and empty. It's just an empty shell of a cabinet, but I got it for free. It's in decent shape, so we're going to be converting that to a quote-unquote dedicated WrestleFest. So it'll be another midway cabinet just like this one, and it'll go nice right next to Wrestlemania here. So that'll be the future project for that cabinet, is a WWF WrestleFest. I already got a board, and Jeff over at XL Arcade is designing me some artwork. And I just got to find a 4-player control panel at that point, and we can get started on that, so stay tuned. Otherwise, thanks for following along with this build. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.